In the street where I live, stories of ghosts and supernatural things have always been told. I remember above all the story of Don Manuel. He was a gay gentleman who was always quite a character. He had few friends, but he always drew attention due to his peculiar way of acting. Dress. He organized the choreographies for 15-year-old party dances, and the truth was he was not a conflictive person. One day he simply disappeared. Nobody saw him again. Nobody knew where he went. His house remains intact with all his things like the she left. Months later a young man came to live in her. They said he was her nephew. Before the month was up, a boy who was going to school came across a horrible vision. The young man who lived in Don Manuel's house had committed suicide by hanging from a balcony apparently at dawn. The poor boy was the first to notice in the morning. But afterwards we all had the opportunity to go and see the macabre scene. We always wonder why go through all the work of to move, to change houses. If he had those thoughts, and why do it there, where we all would see him? It was a street full of strangers. The house is still empty, it is beginning to rot, but noises are still being heard inside, steps in the room where the dances were taught. There are gentlemen who assure that sometimes the silhouette of Don Manuel can be seen walking through the windows. At dawn, one of my sisters says that she is almost sure that she has seen him going up the street. Once she looked out of her bedroom window. At dawn on one occasion some friends brought me one Saturday after a party. I swear it's seriously one of the girls who came in the car. She said, "What the strange gentleman who appeared to see us at that hour has." When I looked where he was pointing, I realized that it was Don Manuel's balcony, from where his nephew hung himself. But the activity here has gotten worse, much worse lately. The strangest thing is that Don Manuel, everything that is or was, nobody uses the house. But recently someone told the neighbors that a girl had crossed the street at night. A girl came up with all normality and he ran into another girl of about 8 years old, in a white nightgown and long hair, came out of nowhere. When walking across the street without flinching, he stopped. But by the time he wanted to look for her, the girl had already disappeared. I don't know if it was collective hysteria or suggestion, but this girl in a white nightgown and long hair keeps appearing. My father, even completely skeptical, told us that recently when he went to work very early before dawn and saw how a girl was playing with a game in the floor sitting between two cars on the other side of the street. Her black hair covered her face as she looked down with what she was playing. My dad tried to think it was his imagination because he already knew the stories. He turned off the car alarm and felt the look of someone or something. When he looked towards where the girl was, there was nothing anymore. He got into the car and looked up to see about 20 meters from him, standing in front of one of the parked cars, at the girl looking at him. He says, "No, I managed to see his face, but I knew. I felt that I was looking at him. We didn't tell the neighbors about that. My dad didn't want it. But this is already an exaggeration, everyone, seriously. Everyone around here has a story about having I have seen this girl. Although no one knows where she came from or what is the reason. Sorry for not being so specific in the story, but this street is very strange. I would like to know if something similar happens to someone. Strange things have also happened to me listening to the videos on this YouTube channel. Even worse, they have been happening for a long time, even on days when I no longer listen to them. I found your channel a few months ago perhaps. In the middle of this year I enjoyed your videos more than those of other channels. I imagine that because I feel it more, as if I were talking to a friend, as if it were a badly narrated horror story, as there are in other places. I like all of your videos, but not all of them scare me. The few that, if they do, they leave me with a very strange feeling, and that's how it was from the beginning, from the first video I saw of you, which I think was Lisa's and the woman's story. The strange things that happened to me began as a dream. One day I woke up at dawn, the door of my room was open, suddenly I could see a silhouette in it. I saw his face and oriental features, but inside the dream I knew that it was Lisa, standing at the door of my room, moving her arms in that strange way, with her extremities getting longer and longer, almost reaching the floor. She approached me when she was about to touch my feet. My dream changed to something that I don't remember. The strange thing is that when I woke up the next morning, the door of my room was open. The following times I listened to your videos, things did not go from feeling that someone was breathing near me, from presences, and even on 2 occasions of voices that spoke to me in the darkness of my room, a voice very similar to yours, to the voice of this channel. But as I told you, it didn't go beyond that. What happened next is what convinces me that this was not part of a suggestion process, of my imagination or my fear. It was on one of those nights when I would make a playlist to listen to all the new stories, and even some of the ones I had already seen but that I didn't like. I like to listen again, even in these repeated ones. The sensation this time was different. I began to feel some anxiety in my chest, tremendous discomfort, as if something very bad was about to happen. A message from my cell phone. My mother told me she was asking if she was in my room. I said yes, and she answered me to come down quickly. She was waiting for me on the stairs, and when I got to her, she said, "Follow me." We ran out of the house. We arrived with the neighbor next door, and my mom told her he said that someone was in our house. Minutes later, the neighbor and his son and his wife arrived. He asked them to come in to check our house, but there was no one, and to check one room by room. Later, my mother told me that from downstairs, from the stairs, she had heard voices in the corridor above. When she looked out, she saw shadows leave her room and walked towards mine. Many shadows, the shadows of a dozen people murmuring as they walked through our house. She knew that this was not, it was something normal. But I must confess that I stopped listening to your stories of watching horror movies and reading about ghosts. A few days ago, something convinced me that it was silly to think about it, that what happened in the house had some relationship with what I saw or read. So little by little, I listened to their stories again, to catch up. The second, third day after I listened to them again, someone knocked on the door. My mother looked in, but there was no one. "No one, you can enter our garden." He spoke to me to let me know. We locked all the windows and we were going to bed, very scared. I was about to tell him that perhaps there was a relationship with the things I used to hear and what was happening, but he began to talk. It had been a long time since before Dad died, that these things did not happen in the house, that is to say. Those shadows are not new. Those voices that were heard were also heard at the time by my mom and dad. May he rest in peace. Without, however, I am almost sure that they returned somehow because of the horror things that I hear, or because of the multiple books on spirits and rituals that I usually read. I don't know, maybe it's just coincidence, but I feel that listening to you, it was a trigger. I don't know what will happen if I get to hear this, my experience in a video, in this house, to continue listening to them. Thank you for accompanying me even on my saddest nights through your videos.